the show, one of the things that I've missed most in lockdown is live sport, football in particular, and many fans will want to see matches back on TV as soon as possible. And there have been some numerous reports. The show, one of the things that I've missed most in lockdown is live sport, football in particular, and many fans will want to see matches back on TV as soon as possible. And there have been some numerous reports about the impact that lockdown has had on the game. Now, a lot of those stories have focused on the bright lights of the Premier League, but lower down the football pyramid, there's an even more intense crisis building. Last year saw attendance at English Football League games, that's the Championship and Leagues 1 and 2, hit 18.4 million. But with no games and far less money from sponsorship and TV rights, clubs are facing a £200 million hole. Ticket and matchday sales can be up to 70% of revenue for clubs at this level. And with many contracts coming to an end in June, up to 1,400 players could even be out of a job. Well, to talk more about this, we're joined by the chairman of League One Tranmere Rovers and the former FA chief. Quick reminder of just where we are. So on the 16th of March, the Prime Minister said a whole household should isolate for 14 days if any of its members display symptoms of COVID-19. Full lockdown was imposed on the 23rd of March when all but essential travel was banned. On the 27th of March, Downing Street said the Prime Minister and the Health Secretary had tested positive and Dominic Cummings was seen running out of number 10. Mr Cummings then developed symptoms over the weekend of the 28th and the 29th. Durham constabulary say that Mr Cummings' father confirmed to them on the 1st of April that his son had travelled from London to the northeast. And a witness claims to have seen Dominic Cummings in the grounds of his parents' home near Durham on the 5th of April, while another witness claims to have seen him a week later in Barnard Castle, a town 30 miles from Durham. And although Mr Cummings returned to London and was spotted in Downing Street on the 14th of April, another witness says that they saw him back in Durham on April the 19th. So let's try and find out a bit more about what has gone on. The Transport Secretary this morning, pretty clear that one of them, he says, is not true, according to the government. That's the fact that this witness claims to have seen him travel back to Durham after returning to London, but things slightly less clear on whether or not he made that trip to Barnard Castle, 30 miles away from Durham, a little bit earlier. Well, let's bring in our political correspondent, Rob Powell, who was listening across that interview. What a weekend for Grant Shapps, firstly. Daily news conference where he was hoping to talk about the A66 and now the morning TV rounds. Completely now he's become, I guess, the face of the government going to row in behind Dominic Cummings. Do you think he's safe?
I think the danger is that we're starting to see...
now designated carer to the Prime Minister, is definitely losing his bounce. The next tweet from David Gorman, journalist for the Irish Times. The Transport Secretary on Ridge on Sky News is so the thick of it, getting grilled about Cummings. I'm actually the Transport Secretary. And the final tweet from Piers Morgan of Good Morning Britain. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps throwing himself under a bus this morning via a multiple car crash and train wreck. So some pretty scathing reaction there on Twitter. I think it does really underline, I guess, the point that I was making with Rob, that this is not an easy gig for Grant Shapps in many ways. He was clearly determined to come on the programme to try and talk about some of those transport announcements and the A66. Instead, he's becoming the face of the defence of Dominic Cummings and certainly, of course, many other members of the Cabinet tweeting their support too yesterday. It'll be interesting to see how the next few days plays out. Now, there's one thing that I am keen to tell you about on the show, because last night we took a really unusual step, the first time we've ever done this, of actually notifying the Minister of some of our questions in advance about Dominic Cummings' movement during lockdown. Now, we flagged them to Grant Shapps. We also put them out publicly on Twitter, on social media, and said that this is what we were going to do. And the idea of that, which really is anathema to journalists, is because we wanted to get the answers to these questions. And we believe that the public and the viewers have got the right to know exactly the detail of what happened with Dominic Cummings. So there were very factual questions. The questions that we said were things like, when did Dominic Cummings first start to show symptoms of coronavirus? When did he make the trip to Durham? Did they stop at any point on the journey to Durham and so on? When did the Prime Minister find out? And the idea was, look, Grant Shapps as Transport Secretary, he probably may not know the ins and outs of a drive that Dominic Cummings made, but we were hopefully giving him the chance to find out if he didn't know. So judge for yourselves. This is what he had to say about exactly when Dominic Cummings became ill and some of those other questions.
So I don't know how all the times and dates for you, but